welcome all. It's been a while since we've done one of these VR, AR intro tutorials at our meetup. So yeah, welcome to our September meetup, and this meetup is themed around learning XR development. I'll be your lecture host for this XR tutorial. So a little bit about me. So my name is Filip Baba. I've been teaching XR, VR, AR in the UnityNYC community for about over 8 years now. My company Anyworld is a VR, AR studio, and we used to offer these things called VR boot camps, AR boot camps. Some of you might have actually attended some of these back when VR and AR was first starting out. So our community was, I'll probably skip that video, but yeah, so we had a pretty vibrant community of people really eager to learn and to explore what was then a pretty new technology, pretty new platform for development, which was mainly VR, and then slowly AR was starting to creep up. And yeah, we had basically the foundations of what you see today as UnityNYC, which was learning Unity development together, and in turn learning VR development together. So that was kind of like our primary goal, one of the main reasons why we started this. And all kind of like culminated right before the pandemic into an XR jam that our community hosted here in New York City at our lab. And our lab, if you're not familiar with the space, it's now a converted space, but it was in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and they were kind and generous enough to offer us their facilities. And yeah, they had pretty much state-of-the-art VR, AR facilities, and they also let us use hardware. Many sponsors that we had as well let us use hardware, and yeah, it was a fun time. It was a great time. You're all part of this community now, and you've been part of this community for some time, some of you. So again, it's a pleasure to be here with you all and to be able to give another lecture in XR, and I'm hoping that we're going to be able to do this again sometime soon. This would be super fun. But yeah, so I guess we can kind of just get into it. I'm going to kind of give a little bit of a brief overview. So this is going to be a pretty open format. So we're going to be covering the basics of getting started with the Meta Quest 3 VR development environment. We're actually going to be setting up a mixed reality application today as the demo from scratch, but I'm going to show you step by step how to get set up, how to set up packages, the sample project that Unity offers, and then we're going to throw that away and just start with something from scratch. So you can see actually how it's all built. So yeah. I have a few useful links here that might come in handy, and I think one of the hardest thing in XR development, or any kind of like new hardware or API, is sometimes finding like the right documentation or knowing the exact first steps. You might just like end up going on YouTube and finding some tutorials and following along. So I've tried to at least put together a little list, a little checklist that you might need. So first things first, you're gonna need a headset. You don't necessarily need a headset to develop in Unity, but if you're gonna be testing anything with XR, you should have a headset. Now, it does not need to be a Quest 3. It could be a Quest 2 as well, and you can find them pretty affordably nowadays. But the Quest 3 is currently the best spec'd standalone VR headset the Meta is offering, and in my opinion, it's actually pretty simple to set up. So the MetaQuest Link app is the one that you want, and that will pair your MetaQuest headset with your computer. So I will be showing you that app in a moment. Another one that we're going to need, and is a pretty indispensable app when developing with the MetaQuest, is the MetaQuest Developer Hub. Now, this current tutorial that I'm presenting is on PC, so it's on Windows, but you can develop on Mac. There is no barriers to developing on Mac besides being able to preview inside the editor with your headset linked up. Currently, PC VR, as it's called, meaning the full capabilities of your PC running on a VR headset, are only available on Windows. unfortunately, to the Mac users. But you could still build and run from your Mac to a Oculus headset, so that's no problem at all. So the MetaQuest Developer Hub, we'll be going over this one as well. MetaQuest Developer Hub allows you to stream your headsets, your screen share, allows you to side load APKs, etc. There's side quest and all that stuff. You could still use it, but there's no need now, because you can just use MetaQuest Developer Hub. And the first place that we want to get started is the documentation. Always read the documentation on any new platform that you're developing for. And the meta documentation, it's actually pretty thorough when it comes to setting up your first Unity project, your first Unity VR or AR and MR project. It might be a little bit hard to find though if you're Googling around. So you might find a few different articles. So just for your convenience, I have the link up here. So most importantly, and we just kind of like skim over this. So you need Windows, you need a Mac. So the mobile app is also important. So first time you ever do buy like a Quest, when you open it up from in the box, they will require you to install an app on your phone and sync it and set it up for the first time. But once you've done that, then you could just hook it up to your PC or your Mac and work from there. So what we're going to need is we're going to need a Unity Editor 2021 LTS, and I'll be going over this in a moment. So it's just telling us, download Unity, Unity Hub. You're going to need Android build support, etc. We'll just kind of like scroll through this, and yeah, that's basically the basics that they're defining here, and we'll get into the import meta XR packages next. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my Unity Hub. Now, if you don't already have Unity installed, you could just do a quick Google for Unity Hub, and this is where it is, and you can just kind of like get Unity downloaded. And Unity Hub is basically your kind of like one-stop. Oh, why am I not signed in? Oh, I am signed in apparently. It manages all your Unity versions. I'm sure you're all very familiar with this since everyone here is a Unity developer. So I have the latest LTS version installed. It doesn't need to be 2021. It can be 2022. There's no difference with these packages at all. You can just use the latest LTS. So without further ado, I'm just gonna start a new project. Now the first thing that we're gonna test out, so y'all can kind of see what it looks like, is so Unity actually has a really nice, I think I already downloaded it, a really nice VR package. Now if it doesn't show up in this top list for you, it might show up down here, and that means the template was not downloaded yet, so you might just need to download it. I already have it downloaded to my Unity Hub. Now the Unity VR package actually uses the XR Interaction Toolkit, which is kind of like a VR, AR agnostic way of interacting with XR objects or cameras, etc. So this is the Unity VR samples that just kind of like comes with Unity Hub. We're gonna just open it so y'all can just see what it looks like, and we're gonna launch it. But then after that, we're actually gonna get into building one actually specifically just for Oculus without using XRI. So I got my VR template here and my project name, and I'm just going to give it a project name, Learn XR Tutorial September. I'm not necessarily need to connect to Unity Cloud now, but if you want, you can, and use version control if you'd like. I prefer to use GitHub or Bitbucket for version control, but the Unity Cloud version control is pretty okay for large files. Something we can go over in future sessions, but I'm just going to go ahead and create a project, and we're just going to let it do its thing. And any questions so far, or any notes? Or yes, Joe.
Play devil's advocate a little bit. Why do we need Android build support? I thought we're building for Quest.
Great question. So the MetaQuest platform runs on Android, so we need to install Android SDK, JDK, and all that fun stuff to be able to build it. You're actually going to be building an APK file that's going to be loaded onto your headset, and that's what becomes the VR experience that runs on the headset. similar to an Android app, but yeah. Yes.
So you're on PC, you just play and run it. You're not installing APK, it just allows for offloading.
So I believe your question is like, can you preview inside the editor on PC? Yes, using the MetaQuest link, you're actually, when you press play in the editor, when you configure it correctly, I'll show you how it works, you're able to just press play, put on your headset, and you just use your app without actually having to build it. And it helps for kind of like rapid prototyping.
So with the Quest, with MacBook, you have to build it and copy that APK over to your headsets directly and run it.
Yes, that is one of the drawbacks of developing for Meta with Mac OS is you will have to build the APK and deploy it to the device and then run it. Yeah.
I can speak a little bit to Macmillan for it. It's actually not too different. So like all the same programs, like the hub, even the MetaQuest app itself, all that flow remains the same, and
Yep.
they have versions for Mac. In terms of the building and uploading, the build time is usually really quick after the first one. The first one might take a long time, but then you're looking, if you want to make small changes, you're looking at like 30 seconds of build time. And then to actually get it onto the headset, there's a couple of commands that are really simple to run on the terminal. So definitely, don't be discouraged if you have a Mac. There's still really valid paths to develop for it.
I actually use Mac as my primary development environment for MetaQuest on the project I'm currently working on. Just because our stack is kind of like based around it a little bit, makes things simpler. But it's yeah, don't be discouraged using a Mac. The only thing is just the Quest link is not going to work on Mac. Hopefully it will at some point soon. They should get it. They should get that. But as far as I know, there is no PC VR on Mac, right? Like you can't really do that on Mac. Like you can't run Steam VR. You can't run
You can run Steam and use a wire.
Steam VR on Mac OS.
Sorry, I don't know if it's Steam, is it Steam VR? Because you can play the Steam games that are in VR on request. You can do it wirelessly.
Far as I know, they still haven't fully enabled for Mac OS. And the difference between PC VR and mobile VR is you don't need a cable. Like the mobile VR just runs as an APK on your headset. PC VR will actually use your graphics card, your computer's full power to power the VR experience. You can play like Half-Life Alyx or something like that, like a full VR game. Cool. So our project is loaded up. Now Unity has a pretty nice VR template here set up for us. So I'm just gonna like zoom in here to just show you. So what I'm doing is right here, I'm just holding right click and I'm using WASD to navigate around the viewport. And you'll see a bunch of these gizmos that I'm just going to go ahead and hide so we can kind of like see what's going on here. So this is a XRI sample interactions scene. Now, one of the first things, is you'll see some tutorials here, some guides. We just want to actually go ahead and go to File, Build Settings. And the first thing that we want to do is we want to switch to Android. Now, very important when you're installing your Unity. Let's say I want to install an editor. I'm going to click Install. Make sure that this is checked on, Android Build Support. You do not need to install Android SDK separately like you used to. The Unity Hub will handle all of that for you now. And it works this time. So yeah, I'm going to click Android here and I'm going to switch platform. This is just a personal preference, but I prefer to switch platforms before doing any work or adding any assets because there's a conversion process that happens after the fact. So if you start off in Android mode, any assets to get imported will automatically get converted to Android file formats. Cool. So it seems like everything has been converted. Now I'm going to go into my player settings real quick. As soon as it does its completing domain thing. Okay, repainting the editor window. All right, so I'm going to click player settings. And you're gonna see at the bottom here, there's an XR plugin management. So we just want to make sure that we either have OpenXR here, or in the next part of this, the Oculus plugin provider. But for now, we are good. So everything here seems to be set up correctly. So now what I can do is I'm going to take my headset, which is currently hooked up with the cable to it, and let me just make sure everything is running correctly here. Excellent. I think I might actually need to scan the room. Yeah, so we can actually show this, why not? So I'm going to plug in my headset to my PC. I'm going to launch my MetaQuest Developer Hub. There's my headset, and I'm going to cast so y'all can see what I'm seeing. Cool. All right. So this cable is actually really great. It's a proper PC VR cable. It's actually very long. So that's actually really great for PC VR, for PC VR development, or even mobile VR development. So I'm going to continue to a room scale. I think it kind of did an okay job. Should I maybe adjust it a bit? Didn't kind of get my stage here, but that's. There we go. I need the stage. Okay. That should be fine, I think. Cool. Alright, so I am in VR. And real quick, if you, I believe if you double tap the headset on the right, you switch to mixed reality and VR. Is there a question?
What program are you using for casting?
This is MetaQuest Developer Hub, the one that I was suggesting from the beginning. It's Meta's official kind of development hub thingy for MetaQuest devices.
There's also a web app, right? There's a website you can go to cast.
Yes, but I would recommend using the MetaQuest Developer Hub. So I'm going to enable Quest Link, what it's asking me to do right here, and Quest Link is now going to put me into my PC VR. So now the VR is going to run from my PC, not only from my headset. Hopefully everything runs as expected. Okay, so this environment is actually the PC VR environment. You can see that my Steam VR actually pops up here if anyone familiar with Steam VR. So now that I'm in here, I'm just gonna pull up my headset here. Really love this like adapter peripheral, so you can do this. I would also highly recommend getting this. And I'm gonna go to my Unity, and I'm gonna press play in Unity. And what you'll see happen, yep, there we go. Unity will launch inside my headset, and here I am. Now, let's just make sure. Yep. So everyone can see that. So yeah, that's it. We did it. There's gonna be more, but yeah, basically. So fortunately, it all is that simple to actually set up for VR. VR is quite done well. I can grab objects. There's a lot of little sample things, little like tutorial here. All the UI inputs work really well. So you can use all of the default Unity UI systems that you're used to. See, it has sliding like UIs, draggable panels, toggles, drop downs, everything. So this little sample project actually is a great starting point to pull like any of these kinds of assets that you want. The windows themselves are nice and draggable. You can move them around. There's all these little different examples of ways that you can interact with things. I have thumbstick navigation where I can navigate with the thumbstick, the pointer, and if I hold the right thumbstick up, that is the teleport. So there's a full teleport integration as well. So that's kind of like it for the XRI. Now, pretty simple to set up, right? Now, for the most part, if you use the template, everything should just come set up correctly. Now again, this is the XRI, so this is the XR interaction toolkit. This is developed by Unity, and it's kind of like a standard set of VR and AR interaction elements, grabbable elements, pointers, teleportation, locomotion, etc., etc. You can actually use this system for other platforms as well, including Apple Vision and other AR platforms as well, and technically it will be supported with any other future VR or AR headset that launches. So that's pretty straightforward and simple enough. And yeah, as you can see, like when I'm actually in, well, when I was in, hopefully I'm still in, yeah. You can see that I'm actually moving around my Unity editor inside VR. So if you ever need to debug something, you could pause it. Oh, sorry. No, where's my clicker? There we go. You could pause it, and you can see exactly where your interactors are, what they're doing at that moment. See, my pointer is right here. Really great way to debug and develop in real time. One of the advantages of developing with PC VR is that you can do this. Now, the trick is, so what we're going to be doing next, which is mixed reality. So we're actually going to be working with the camera pass-through. Some of that you can't really preview in editor. I think there's some security things where you can't really stream the camera like to the Unity editor. So there are limitations to QuestLink. It's not like a magic silver bullet to developing with VR. Most of the time, if you're building platform specific things, you will build and run to your headset. That's just how it's going to be. Whenever you're developing for any hardware, the simulator or the preview is only going to take you so far.
It's essentially running like the Rift OS when you're doing link cable, right? Like
Exactly.
The UI changes. It's no longer the Quest UI.
That was that white background that you saw with the infinite grid, yeah. And then I can actually launch like straight up PC VR games like from the Oculus store, or I can just launch Steam VR and then just launch anything from the Steam VR library onto the headset. Okay. Any questions so far? Notes or yes? So.
From this agnostic template, how much work is it to make a build for like the Apple Vision Pro or like Pico? Like, would this be compatible to those headsets as well?
So, to tell you the truth, I haven't yet tested the XRI sample from here on the Apple Vision Pro, but we've done some preliminary work and can see that XRI does work with Apple Vision out of the box. Pico should work straight up out of the box.
Apple Vision does have a little bit more restrictions, and they kind of their own paradigms as Apple tends to like to do, and so that doesn't fit one to one yet with the XRI stuff. But they're over the year and by the end of the year they're probably going to release a little bit more packages that are a little bit more solidified.
Yep. And when you mentioned Pico, so a good indicator of that is OpenXR. So we're not using the Oculus Runtime plugin provider. We're using the OpenXR plugin provider, which is kind of a VR agnostic. So it will run on Oculus, it will run on Pico, no problem. So let's try that, right? So this is was only just running directly from my PC. But what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to build this. So let's go ahead and click, File, Build Settings. I'm already switched to Android. You can actually see the runtime device pops up in my list here. Everything is configured correctly. One more thing that you should keep in mind, if your device does not show up in here, you probably need to enable developer mode on your device. There's some instructions online on how to do that. It's on your headset. You go into settings, there's the toggle, and then developer mode gets enabled. When you plug it in, your headset will say, do you want to allow this computer to connect? Then you allow it. So it shows up here. I'm not going to build and run. I'm actually just going to just build an APK to my desktop. September learn XR test XRI. Okay, so I'm just gonna build that. I'm just gonna let it do its thing. Build an Android SDK. So the difference here will be that I'll actually be able to unplug my headset, and after I put the APK file on and take it with me to go. So it will run on the headset's hardware, not on my computer. And it should look exactly the same, with probably a tiny slight graphic quality, maybe like on the textures it might be a little bit lower res, but
Yeah, what do you find are like the differences once you build to your class?
yeah, so the Android platform, it does have some slight limitations. So this is probably changing as I'm even saying this, but you don't really want to have textures over 2K. It's just kind of like a thing. With VR, if you want to have larger textured things, there's some tricks that you can do with stitching together multiple smaller textures, but there's some maximum memory limits. Normal maps look a little bit different. The lighting gets calculated a little bit differently on Android than you would see on PC. But for the most part though, we are using the Unity standard render pipeline. So the standard render pipeline should behave and look 99% or 100% pretty much the same. There's some slight performance hit if you have a lot of things going on in your scene. If you have a lot of assets, you will see an FPS drop on the headset, which you might not see on your PC if you have a good graphics card. So always, keep in mind that you're developing for a mobile platform, as you would for any kind of like mobile device. You would keep your poly counts low, your texture memory optimized, etc., etc. Especially important in VR because low FPS or performance drops in VR can be nauseating to users. So there's actually meta guidelines to keeping a certain minimum frame rate if you ever want to publish an app for the MetaQuest store. It's one of their like checklist items. There's some actual funny rules as this is building. I can just talk about it, but they say that your FPS can drop under the 72 FPS threshold or whatever it is per the specific platform, only in high intensity scenes such as a boss battle. They say, and it needs to stay. It can't be longer than, I don't know, X amount of minutes or something like that. So they have some special conditions for, I'm throwing a lot of stuff on screen and the FPS might drop for like a millisecond. That they're okay with that. But overall, though, the app should be running at a smooth 72 plus FPS frame rate, which is what the Quest 2 runs at by default. That's another actually interesting thing too, is that you can actually increase the frame rate of your headset in the Quest Link app. So there are experimental features, but I would recommend going to 90 hertz or higher on your headset. You can go to 120 as well. Yes.
I just got to know this because it's a bit new before, but if you have the scene view and the game view open at the same time, let's say side by side, you're actually rendering that twice. So you'll see like your FPS drop by half. So if you're wondering why is it so low, it might be because you're rendering it twice. Just closing one of those views might help.
Yes.
The FPS thing is like causing nausea if it's too low. Is I was noticing when you're walking the sample scene, your field of view was getting narrow when you were walking. Is this just in the preview or is it also in the headset? Is that also like to reduce motion blur or is this some technical?
Yes, it's like a best practice. It's like I'm gonna tell you exactly what it's called when it's done building, but it's a little vignette effect that gets put on the camera as you're locomoting. It's a tunneling effect. That's the word. I guess they've just found that seeing a little bit less of your periphery as you're moving through it makes you less. Yeah. You can turn that off. In the XRI settings, you can tweak it, the size of it, the amount of it. I don't personally need it when I thumbstick move around, but it's a default setting. you know, it's always encouraged to have some of these, how would I say, comfort settings for especially for beginner users, that their VR comfort level might not be at, like, you know, maybe there's just their first time trying something, and I've seen people use the thumbstick to locomote around and get a little weirded out because their body's not moving, but they're moving in there. So yeah, teleport is generally globally considered to be a comfortable mode of movement, teleporting from one position to another. And you'll see a lot of apps have in their comfort settings, usually they default to teleport, and then thumbstick navigation becomes more of like a additional mode of locomotion. Yeah. I wish. No, so the HDRP is currently only available on the current gen consoles and PC. It's kind of like the answer to Unreal's rendering capability. HDRP looks beautiful. It's not supported on mobile yet.
You really gotta think of it as like a phone strapped in your hand.
Yeah, standard render pipeline is for mobile, and HDRP high definition render pipeline is for the high end of devices. It is for PC VR. So if you want to build a PC VR experience, you can use HDRP. It just would have to run on your PC hooked up with the cable. Also SRP, standard or built-in. But most people aren't really using built-in anymore. The industry is moving away from built-in, and just standard render pipeline is where we're going. You'll actually see in the documentation they tell you to import standard, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to do built-in. We're going to do standard render pipeline because you should. Everyone's moving to that now. So I have an APK built. It took a little bit of time, and as mentioned, the first time usually takes some time, but then it gets faster after that. Usually it's all the shaders and stuff that needs to get compiled. They got to do something. So I'm gonna like just delete this APK, and then yeah. So this is MetaQuest Developer Hub. When I plug in my device, my MetaQuest shows up here. Shows me the apps that I have available, files that are available on the device. Like I can get like screen recordings from the device, screenshots, etc. And then there's some more interesting things here that are more like a little advanced features, like the performance analyzer. You can get device logs from your device. You don't actually need to use ADB. You can just use the actual built-in logger. So you know, filtering any logs that you have, you can get your actual Unity error messages and stuff like inside this. So it's a super useful tool. But what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna add build here, and I'm gonna add this APK, and the APK is going to install. And it installed, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast my device, and I'm going to exit MetaQuest link, so everyone can see that. Cool. So settings, I'm going to disable Quest link. Don't need it anymore. Am I satisfied? I'm going to cancel. I'm going to just go into my app list here, and I'm going to click the three dots and launch app. And now my app is launching inside my headset. I'm going to get my Made with Unity window, and there I am, and I can unplug this, and I am in VR. Now the link probably for the casting would have disabled when I did that, because I did not do it with Wi-Fi. Apologies for that. But I'm running the exact same app. I'll just put up the link again. I'm running the exact same app standalone. So if you want to get a XR app up and running super quickly, the VR sample project from Unity, it works for once. Yeah, they did a good job. So that's VR. What about AR, MR, XR, etc.? So this is the Unity way of doing things, but let's check out what Oculus wants us to do if we want to build a mixed reality app. So I'm just going to close this project. By the way, any questions or anything so far?
Would it be hard to convert that the same VR sample to MR?
I wouldn't like rate it as like hard or easy. It would be more like it's really not built with the Oculus building blocks. Their code it's built with the XRI stuff. There's some additional steps to doing AR. The template itself is a VR template, so it would be some labor to get it working with that. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna make a new project. So MR example, MR Oculus example, let's call it that. Now the template that we're going to use is we're going to use the Universal 3D, Universal Render Pipeline, which used to be called the Standard Render Pipeline. I already have it downloaded. If you don't have it downloaded, it'll just show up like this, download template. So I'm just going to do that. I'm not necessarily connecting to Unity Cloud at this moment. So I'm going to create that.
So if you're only doing VR, how do you choose the XRI versus Meta block?
I'll show you in a moment. So once you start with a blank project, you have the choice of using OpenXR or Meta's specific SDKs. The next steps that we're going to do is we're actually going to go through the getting started with Unity and MetaQuest guidelines here in their the Meta documentation. So importing the Meta XR packages is where you're making that decision. So are you going to use Meta's XR packages, or are you going to use OpenXR and XRI packages? It's kind of a choice that you make hopefully at the beginning of your project. Sometimes might happen midway, you want to switch. But yeah, it's they both work, but they work differently. So they have different code, different ways of using it, examples, and etc. The Meta stuff is actually not bad. It's also usually got a lot of like state of the art stuff that they're pushing out to their SDK. So if there's something new that comes out, you'll probably find it in their package repositories, and I'll show you in a moment where to find all that and how all that looks. And yeah, so we're just gonna let Unity do its thing, start up gracefully. Don't be worried if your machine, I'll just put it on performance. It takes a long time to do that. We got a pretty fast machine here, and it takes some time to do it as well. Hopefully something that Unity 6 will fix at some point. It's like watching paint dry.
I think you're right. I think it's important to say that it's like kind of like you're choosing your path there, right? Like if you're going XRI, you're most likely planning more than just the MetaQuest that says run on, right? But if you're like, this thing is only going to ever run on MetaQuest, and I want to utilize every MetaQuest feature as easily as possible, like how Meta wants you to use it, then you're better off using the Blue Block.
Can you use Meta's block and work on the other devices?
Probably not. You'll get a lot of errors anytime you run Meta stuff on non-Meta hardware. All right. New project. Absolutely empty with nothing in it. Just the standard render pipeline. It's installing some packages and etc.
I have one question.
Yes.
They have talked about a Meta OS and being able to use that on headsets that have not yet been developed. But have you heard about that? And do you think that using the like Meta building blocks then would be compatible with these other devices?
I haven't heard anything that you might not have already seen on the internet, but I do believe that there's a notion of XR operating systems coming out. Apple Vision has their own operating system, Vision OS, Meta OS, and you'll have other competitors also making their own versions of XR operating system. So it would be wise for them to have a Meta OS that can run on different Android device platforms, like a Pico, for example. I believe it's probably the only other standalone VR headset with Sol, or do you think there's? Yeah, like there's not that many right now, like pieces of hardware that you could just agnostically install like an OS to. It's kind of you kind of have this, and then you have the Pico line of devices, which are good devices. I've used them before.
There is a third route with WebXR, which is trying to standardize things across browsers. So there's Unity support for WebXR as well, but there are trade-offs. If you go on the WebXR route, things are a lot less secure, and you have to really manage your own domain. Things like that.
Yeah, WebXR has been making a lot of strides there as well. But yeah, I'm hoping that one day we'll have a choice of operating systems to install on our headsets. But for now, we're kind of stuck with whatever the hardware provider gives us. For now, who knows? Cool. So, empty Unity project. How do you make this work with XR? So here's how you do it. You're going to go to File, Build Settings, and again, since we are building to Android, I would recommend you do this first. So we're just going to switch platform to Android.
Do you know if they're still making new HTC headsets?
Yes, they are. I think they just made one recently. Made a new HTC headset. Yeah.
What is it on for PC as well?
It's a PC one, yeah. They have this whole bundle with the full body tracking headset and everything. They're pretty much on the high end now of PC VR. The Valve Index would not recommend buying it now. It's still the same price it was like 5 years ago it came out, 6 years ago? They still have not made a new one. The resolution is very low. Even this one has double the resolution of what the Index has. So their base stations are okay, but yeah, if you want like a higher end headset for PC VR, go with HTC or go with Big Screen Beyond. I believe is the highest end VR headset. They actually custom make the mold to your face. You use an iPhone, you scan your face, you send it to them. It's about $1,000 just for the headset. You need controllers and you need base stations. But yeah, they'll make a custom molded headset, and it's like the size of like goggles like this. They have like double 4K OLED screens. It's like quite impressive. I have a couple of friends that have it, and they rave about it. They just say like, it's like they don't even feel like it's on their head. These are quite bulky if you actually look at them now. It's like kind of like it's a giant thing on your face. But if you do get a chance to look up, yeah, Big Screen is doing some really great work in terms of high-end VR headsets. PC VR though, only. You have to plug it into your computer. It doesn't have any guts running inside of it, which is what makes it run so light and small. Cool. So we're in Android. I'm gonna go to Player Settings, and I'm gonna scroll all the way to the bottom at XR Plugin Management. I'm gonna get a big button right here saying Install XR Plugin Management. So I'm gonna do that. It's gonna install the XR packages automatically. Things have gotten a lot better. Unity. No more like downloading packages from websites, and thumbs up for the package manager. XR plugin management, and then when I click that, we're already on Android, and we've got Oculus right here. So we're just gonna check mark Oculus, and it's going to install those packages. Amazing. All right. There will be one more step here, but I'm going to show something first, and I'll be coming back to the project settings so y'all can see what I'm talking about. So this is just a basic Unity project setup. Next steps is if we're going to go into our documentation here, it's telling us to import Meta's XR packages, and it's telling us to find those at the asset store. So the Unity asset store link, I'm going to click it right here. I believe I'm already signed in. I'm not. It's okay. I'll sign in a moment. These are all the MetaQuest packages. There's a lot of them. Don't be alarmed. We just need this one for now. So I'm going to add this to my assets. Now I'm going to need to sign in. It's actually already part of my assets. Yeah, now it signed me in. There we go. I seem to be in. So we're going to need the Meta XR Core SDK. And for our demo today, the Meta XR MR utility kit, which is the mixed reality utility kit. Only those two. There's a lot of other really cool stuff here. I highly recommend you install these. Take a look at their sample scenes, run it on your headset, run it with QuestLink, and try it out. Same as that example that I just showed you with XRI. There's a lot of really good building blocks and examples and best practices, and a lot of this stuff you don't have to build it from scratch. You could use like the best practices and modify it. Focus more on your environments, on your code, on your interactions, on your app itself, and less on XR best practices, at least with this platform. So once I have these added, what I'm going to do is, so the way that the asset store works now is like you add your assets to your account. So and then they should show up in your package manager. So I'm going to click Window, Package Manager. Oh, and by the way, I am recording this entire session, and we will upload this afterwards as well. If I'm going too fast, or if I didn't catch anyone, having a question or wanting to slow down, we will upload this to YouTube after, so everyone can run through it. And feel free to reach out to me as well if you have any questions and stuff. Just kind of trying to speed through some of these. There's still a couple of more major topics we want to cover, and want to leave some time for questions, and not just about the demo, but also general XR questions if anyone has. So I'm in my package manager, and I'm going to go to my assets, which I added those Meta packages to my assets, and I'm just going to type in the search box here, Meta, and I have my Meta XR Core SDK, so I'm going to install that.
So when we're building an MR project, this would be the best way forward. It would just only be MetaQuest.
This is one way forward. Typically, if you're working with the camera pass-through, would be recommended to use the native platforms tools. I can't really speak to how well XRI does AR with all the MetaQuest features. There's some features like the scan of the room, for example. It's something that really Meta built. It's not something that's like an agnostic platform thing. So if you're doing mixed reality with XRI in Unity, you might not get like the room mesh, or you might be able to figure it out, but I haven't been able to. But it's just something it seems to be a native thing. So there are some features like the Meta avatars, for example. You'll probably be able to get those mainly using the Meta platform. Probably not going to be able to add those without some additional work and some additional integration stuff. Now, you're going to probably get this a lot. I hope they actually fix this. And I actually found a way to disable this. Yeah, I did. So they keep asking me to, send statistics. Even when I say send or don't send, I'm going to say send. And you'll see it pop up like a million times after. So after installing the Meta XR Core SDK, it's asking me to restart my Unity editor. I'm going to let Unity do its Unity things. And load again. It'll probably ask me to send usage statistics again. I actually have a link here for how to disable the Meta telemetry popup. There is a script, line 37 in OVR telemetry popup.cs file in the packages. The only thing you have to do is comment out show popup. But you have to copy this package to your assets. Otherwise, like you can't it's like a read-only thing if you modify the code in the actual package. So make sure you copy the entire OVR package to your assets, and you can change it. And if you want to disable that telemetry pop-up, that's where you do it. Because it was really annoying me, and I had to find a way to fix it. So hopefully it won't annoy you as much if you. Yeah, see, it's asking me again. See, I'll send my statistics again. It's funny enough because you actually go into the settings, and it says where you can enable and disable it. And when you try to do it, right here, it tells you to go to preferences, meta XR, telemetry enable, and if I click that, it just won't let me click it. Look at that. It's fucking wonderful. So I think there's a bug there. So yeah, if you want to disable that, just disable the pop-up because it does get a little annoying. It's actually even more annoying when you're previewing in MetaQuest Link because it won't run the preview until you accept or decline the pop-up. Enough ranting though. So we got one package and we need one more, the MR utility kit. I'm going to install that. Cool. Those are the two main Meta packages that we need to build a mixed reality app with Meta. And this should be a no code setup. If we have some time, we can write some code to do some interesting things, but I'm gonna run this session as a beginner no code session. Just setting up the prefabs, setting up the project, and just, raw. There we go, send user statistics. Cool, so here's our project, empty project. We're going to go to Meta Tools, Project Setup Tool, first step. Now, there's a bunch of little things here, little configurations and etc. that they want you to have as best practice. Just click Fix All, Apply All, just accept everything, just let it, make sure you got no errors or anything wrong in here. And there's some, things like Android API versions, texture compression settings, etc. This tool is just going to make sure that your Unity is set up correctly. All the project settings are automatically set correctly so that you can actually export and build to your headset. And it works quite well. I'm really glad they added something like this. Instead of having to go online and find everything and make sure it's set to the right thing, who would have thought you can make a little tool that just clicks as Fix All? I wish life was like that. Just click Fix All. So we got everything fixed. Everything's been verified. And XR plugin management, our Oculus is set up. There's going to be one more thing that we got to do here. But we'll get to that in a moment. So now that we have that, we are going to go back to our Meta window here, Tools, Building Blocks. And Meta provides these building blocks where you can actually pull in different parts that you're looking to work with. So let's start with something really simple, right? Let's just start with a camera rig. So we're just going to pull in a camera rig. And there's our camera rig. Now, this is the VR camera. So this camera will move with you. This is where if you add controllers, they will be part of the camera rig. As you move, your controllers will move. And eventually, if you want to do locomotion and etc., you'll probably do it on top of that camera rig. I'm going to disable or delete, in this instance, it's already disabled, the main camera. So we don't need that anymore. That's the default Unity camera. Since we have the camera rig now, I'm just going to add a cube. I'm just going to put it there, just so we actually have something in the scene. There we go. Here's our nice cube at 0, 0. I'm going to put it to like 2 meters ahead of me, like right there. So we got a cube. All right. So we're going to save this scene. I got my headset. And gonna cast device. I'm going to unplug and replug my headset. It's just quicker than going to the menu. And I'm going to enable the quest link. is if you want to enable Quest Link through the menu, you have to like click like 2, 3, or 4 different things. Just plug it and unplug it. It usually works for me. So I'm gonna wait for Quest Link to load. Come on. You can do it. Oh, why am I not connected to a power source? Maybe this one. I didn't know there was power here. Did I pop a fuse or something? Yeah, I know, but I don't have. I'm on battery for some reason. Do you want? My power plug went out for some reason. Like, just the strip is not giving any power. Yeah, that's weird. It's fine. I still have battery, but might be running at a little degraded performance. Yeah, I just did that. That was what I was here to hear. It's mine here. Oh, it's mine. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Cool. Well, technical. So, when you see this white background, this is the MetaQuest link. I just held my MetaQuest button to recenter. So, if I'm in Unity, right? The step was, oh, then my Unity might have. Then our Unity crashed. That'll happen. So, don't be alarmed if that happens. Just Unity doing Unity things. Make sure you save often. So there's our building blocks, and we have our Quest link enabled, plugged into the computer. Now, if I press play, it should run in the editor, right? It won't. There's one more setting we have to do. See, nothing launches in here, and Unity is just being Unity as you would expect it to. Now there is one more thing you have to make sure to do on a blank project, and this is what I was mentioning during the initial setup. We'll come back to. You have to make sure in XR plugin management that you go to PC here and enable Oculus there. Oh, because now you can actually run PC Link in Unity. Ripped my hair out with this one for a while at some point. I was like, why is it not working? And it was just like, yeah, you gotta just enable that. So if I press play now, that should just work. Yeah, see that? So, and you see this blue? It's because it wants me to send usage statistics. So I'm gonna send the usage statistics, and there we go. All right, so I am in my blank VR app, and there's a cube. There is nothing. There's no controllers. There's absolutely nothing here. There's only a positionally tracked camera rig. So we're talking like an absolutely blank project. But we got one. If we build this to headset, it will run. We'll have a VR app. But we're not building a VR app. We're building an MR app. So what else do we need for that? So we're going to go back to our building blocks. All right, next thing is the pass-through. So we're going to add that. That's the camera pass-through. So the camera pass-through is what's going to enable camera pass-through to work inside your scene. Let's see, what else? We probably want controller tracking. I want to see my controllers. So we're going to add that. Magic. We just puts it in the right place, as it should. And I want to see my room mesh, so I'm going to add my scene mesh. Add that. And there was a positional, what is it called again? Find spawn positions. We're going to use that one as well. And this one is actually going to be part of our logic a little bit. So the find spawn positions, it's a little script that just finds surfaces to place things on. So I'll actually have like an ability to place like a prefab onto the floor, let's say. It won't be like hovering, it will be like on the floor or on the table or on whatever I specify as. So I'm gonna add that, find spawn positions, cool. And now we have the basic building blocks of a mixed reality project. Now, what do we want on these spawn positions? So let's say, just for demonstration purposes, what do you guys think? Like, should we do like a sphere? I guess. All right, let's do a sphere. Maybe make it a little smaller. They are meters. Yes, Unity units are in metric. I don't know. I'll make like a little color material for it. And make it a little like transparent green, and we'll half there. All right. So we got a sphere. I'm going to make that sphere into a prefab, and then on our find spawn positions, the spawn object is currently set to this find spawn positions tile. I'm just going to put our sphere, our sphere as that, and then let's say we want like, I don't know, 10 of them, 10 spheres around. That should be fine. Save the scene, and this time I'm actually going to build it, because we actually want to see it with the camera pass-through. So I'm gonna go ahead and build. And MR, just call it that. Cool. That should hopefully work. Gonna delete this old version of the APK. Don't need to, usually you can overwrite. But I know that we had, actually don't need the quest link anymore. Oh, great. Update Android SDK. I don't know why, but thought we already built, but sure. Probably, yeah. So you didn't need it for XRI, but apparently needed it for Meta, so yeah. Yes?
There's no way to do MR without like building and adding the APK, right?
I could try it right now. I think I tried it before. I would hope so, but yeah, your cameras might not be going through to the Unity editor.
Oh, yeah, it's not.
I'll double check though, actually. I'm actually curious myself too.
We're sure there's not some weird check mark things
There's other things. There's like the room mesh, and there's a bunch of other things that just will not necessarily stream to the editor, as well as it would like in a standalone. But we'll try it out. It should, be exactly the same when you press play as it should be on the headset.
After this initial one, we were making like 20 seconds of first simple stuff. I didn't change it.
Yeah, just let the shaders compile.
You got any favorite VR games or experiences? Anything you want to shout out?
I really like VTOL VR. It's like a flight simulator game. It's like not a too hardcore of a flight simulator game like DCS World. So, but there is no tutorial. So like when you go into the plane, you actually, I first just tried everything until I figured out how to take off, which was kind of a game in itself for me. You can watch like YouTube tutorials on how to do it, but it's pretty good. It got like a pretty good F-22 model, and you can like, you turn on, flip all the switches, all the knobs, close the canopy, everything is like full. You have like co-pilots with you, you run missions and stuff. It's cool. They have a multiplayer mode too. I like that. What else? I like Pavlov VR. It's like it's a first-person shooter game. It was one of the first, but they've done a really great job with it. They have all these community maps now. You can actually run like really old like Counter-Strike maps on it. Like they have like Dust 2 and stuff like in Pavlov, which I think is pretty cool. And they just added like well, not just, but they did add like a World War II DLC to it. So it's also kind of like Day of Defeat as well, just for free. They just kind of like added it, which is pretty cool. You can even drive tanks in it and stuff. There's another one I like. Blade and Sorcery is fun. Yeah, that's a good game.
Virtual reality, and vacation simulator. I would suggest that one. It's a good one for game design. Really good game design. Everything kind of like, it's a simple game. It's simple mini games, but everything kind of makes sense. It's a progression.
Yeah, virtual reality is pretty good. Really good beginner one too. To put someone that's never tried VR in.
So the second thing you add in gravity into shit, like people are nuts. Like if you have heights, people are nuts. So we had a small piece of wood on the floor, and then we just started walking really scared. And some people could not do it. It's like you know that you're on the ground. Like yeah.
It's like that bridge.
Yeah. No.
It's like that glass bridge
Yeah.
where you see people.
Yeah, it's consistent. Doing shop moves.
I don't know how to do that.
So I have an honest question.
Yes.
How do you build worlds?
That is a great question. So there's a few different ways you can build worlds. You can, depends on what kind of world you want to build. You want to build like 3D fictional worlds, or you want to build worlds based on real life, maybe using 360 photographs or 3D scanned assets. But it all does start with 3D. So it's going to be 3D modeling, 3D texturing, or in some way at least 360 or 3D photogrammetry that's going to be part of your environments. You can use environments that other people have built and use them as building blocks. So you could like kind of, they have all these different kinds of kits on the asset store where you can download like I can show you some, but you can download some for example, if you go on their asset store, see right here they have on sale, there's a Toon Deserted Temples kit. So the artist created an entire world, and you can start pulling it apart and just moving around the assets and building your own world out of it. Of course, you can make your own 3D as well, or hire a 3D artist or work with someone that's a 3D artist. Maybe they work in Blender or in Maya or something like that. But at the end of the day, it is all going to be like 3D type environment. So there's a grasslands one. There's tons of assets like this. There's a lot of free stuff also online, but to be honest, for the price, what you get with some of these, like this is weeks, months of work that some artists put in for $30, and you get the license to it, and you can use it in your project. So, and all of this works with everything that we were just showing. So you'd be able to put this environment in VR. See if we're casting again. All right. casting. So I put that build on, and let's see what we got. Hopefully it works. It should work. Move around to identify the room. Okay, cool.
Casting is just behind.
Oh yeah, sorry. I can see everything. Okay, cool. Where do we need to stand? Okay, sure. Let's keep going.
So what's happening right now?
It's asking me to scan the room. I haven't worked in this room, so I'll do that. Okay. Adjust if needed. Add furniture. No, that's okay. This is the living room. Yes. Replace the space. Yes. Great. Living room complete. Okay. Can we start now? Cool. Yeah. There's our cube. There's our sphere from before. Room mesh is not showing up for some reason though. Oh, there's a bunch over there on the table. They seem to have placed themselves nicely. Oh right, I set it to table. That's why. That makes a lot of sense. We detected a table. So I'll show you where that is actually. So it's in the placement. Find spawn positions. I have it to table and other, so I'll set it to floor and let's just say floor for now. But yeah, that's where you do that. So for the wrap up of this, let's just do like something a little fun, I guess, because why not? We have like about like 12 minutes left, and then I'll take some questions and we can just kind of like hang out and network. But yeah, so I'm gonna disable this sphere and this cube. So the controllers are part of the camera rig. So they're inside the camera rig tracking space, and you have the left hand anchor and right hand anchor, left controller anchor, right controller anchor, and then those are the tracking points. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make a sphere again. And this time, this sphere, I'm going to pretend that it's like a boxing glove of sorts, or something like that. So I have a sphere that I position inside the controller. I'm going to make it about 10 centimeters or so. It'll look kind of like this, and we can give it this green here. Let's see. Collision sphere, and we're going to add a rigid body to it, which gives it physics, and we're going to make it kinematic, which means that it's going to be influenced by our movement vector, so it's not just going to fall off of our hand, or it's basically we are controlling this physics object. You can imagine it as kind of like a wrecking ball. So I'm going to attach these spheres. Oops. To use the Mac. I'm going to use these spheres and put them inside the hands. Cool. Alright, so we got some spheres in our hands, and they have rigid bodies, and they're kinematic, and we don't need to use gravity on these. When they're kinematic, you don't have gravity, but just in case. And then I'm going to just make something like this. So make like some cubes like so, and we're going to add some rigid bodies to these. They are going to be non-kinematic, and they're not going to use gravity. And then I'll make let's say like a stack of cubes like this. Okay. It's my stack of cubes. Cool. Let's see if they're well placed. A little bit up. Okay. So all my cubes, I'm going to select them. Oop. Ah. Game object, create empty parent, the cube parent, and I'm going to save that as a prefab. So all of our cubes with their physics are saved, and I'm going to save that scene. I'm going to actually disable that object. We have it saved as a prefab in here. So what I'm going to do is, instead of our sphere for the spawn object, we're going to spawn this cube parent. It's going to scatter it around the room, and hopefully we should have some zero gravity cubes going around the world with no code. So we have, again, to recap, kind of like boxing gloves on our hands with physics, and we have some cubes that are going to get scattered around the room, and I should hopefully be able to push them around. Okay, so we're going to build that. MR demo 2. Cool. Back to our MetaQuest Developer Hub. Oh, that's not it. This is it. Stop that app. Uninstall it. You actually don't need to uninstall it. You can just override it too. It's just a habit of mine. If you wanted to wipe like local player preferences and stuff like that, uninstall it. Don't need to though. You can just add the build and it will just overwrite the old one. So here's our cast. I'm going to launch the app, put the cast up. There we go. Ooh, bunch of cubes. Woo. So yeah. There it is. Cubes, and I can put sound effects on them, or I can explode them when I touch them, or something like that. Maybe for the next workshop.
Are they colliding with the room too?
They are colliding with the room mesh. Yes. So if I try to push it into the ground, you'll see that too. So the chairs as well. Should be here. There it is. See? On the chair. So it works quite well. They kind of have some masking too. I don't know if you could tell. It kind of masks like behind the chair a bit. It's because the room scan wasn't super accurate, but yeah. Also another reason to have a really nice long cable like this. Give y'all a link to that as well. Would highly recommend that. Also, these grip straps are great because I can just hold my controllers without dropping them. You just replace the battery cover with the grip straps. But yeah, you can see that cube's like stuck in the vent there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you. Yeah, any questions? Thoughts? How did you like the session? Was it easy to follow? Would you be interested in more sessions like this? Yes. It's a great device. It really is. I use it as my main VR driver today. So my index is collecting dust. Yes.
I think this was a great session. The only thing that I had a bit of difficulty following was all the acronyms. In cybersecurity, there are so many acronyms, and you were expressing a lot of acronyms that I wasn't familiar with. But other than that, it was pretty easy to follow, and it was a great demo. I would love to see you explore these cubes or in the next session or
All right.
continue to develop. So thank you so much.
Thank you for that great feedback.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I thought this was awesome. Thank you so much. I'd love to get deep dive on specific topics in like VR, XR, or whatever. Like deep dive into best practices in locomotion, or how you prevent like motion sickness, either with UI or
absolutely. I think we'll probably have a more advanced session covering some of those topics. The next one that we're planning for the community is we're going to do Apple Vision Pro due to popular demand. So we're going to be doing this exact similar-ish type setup, but we're going to show you how to start from zero and make an Apple Vision Pro app in Unity in the span of an hour or so.
I think there are free giveaways during this next session.
Apple Vision Pros. Yeah, we're just gonna be. You get an Apple Vision Pro, and you get an Apple Vision Pro. But y'all can try it. I know people are curious to try the headset as well. But yeah, we'll plan something and.
Yeah.
Do you need an Apple Vision Pro in order to develop?
No, you don't actually, but you do need a Mac, like that's running Silicon, Apple Silicon. Yeah, M1, M2, M3. Yeah, so you can run everything in the simulator actually really well. Forget what the guy's name was, but one of the early like Apple Vision Pro developers, he got like his app featured on the Apple Store. He never even had one. He just like did it in a simulator, got it featured, and he went and bought one when it came out. And then he's like nervous to try his own app. He's like, I never even tried it on a headset because he didn't go to the labs or something. So yeah, the simulator is that good. So you can run pretty much almost everything in it. So you had a question, and then you.
One advanced topic I really want to cover in terms of XR is
Custom input system? Yeah.
I was playing around with the template and I was expecting it to just use the template system. So what it does is it has all these weird wrappers and I couldn't figure out how to use event-based input events. I couldn't use input events. I had to use like update and check about the wrapper. It was weird. It was like going back in time to an old input system. So that's what
Yeah, XRI has a pretty good input manager. I would recommend you check out how they're doing it first. There's a whole input system, and they're all like scriptable objects. They're all configurable, so you can do the bindings really well. Yeah, it is a larger topic in general, like the ways to do input systems.
One thing that's so confusing is the interactives versus interactables with the XR
Mm-hmm.
interaction toolkit, which seems to be the basis for a lot of the things that you want to replicate in real life, to be able to pick something up and open it or something.
Yes.
So that, I think that's cool. Also, I have a suggestion for the input stuff that I found useful.
I think it would be nice to see how you get your finished product onto App Lab or into the ecosystem itself.
That's a great feedback. Yep. The publishing process is also something. It's a little bit. I wouldn't say gatekept, but there's like a lot of little steps and little like best practices. Something to keep in mind too. Meta does have some checklists for before you even start building your app on the concept side of things. So they actually provide some pretty good support on how to get set up with your journey towards publishing on MetaQuest store, on the Meta store. It's called, yes. But yeah, App Lab is pretty straightforward. Yeah, you would basically what you saw here, like building something like this. It's kind of like Test Flight if you've ever done any of those, or but yeah, basically you just build the app with the bundle identifier. You register it on their site. You put like a logo icon, and then you can send people invites via email, and then they can download your demo like directly on their headset without having to plug it in, without having to do anything if they have the email invite. But that would also be a good topic to cover for sure. You have a question as well?
I was just wondering about like photos
Mm-hmm.
and what's the process for photos if you're interested in creating more realistic ones.
So you can import any kind of images or photos like into Unity. So if I wanted like a photo, I don't know, I'll just take a photo of this. Why not? Here's a photo. So you could put photos or any kinds of image assets, video assets, sound assets inside Unity. Now if you're thinking like you want like more realism, if you want something that's actually how would I say, like something that's photo scanned or like a 360 environment, I would recommend looking at 360 images. But yeah, see, I just put in like there's a photo. So you can very easily put any kinds of images into Unity, including photos. Cut out photos of characters if you'd like, art assets, and etc. They can become part of your UI. They can become part of your world. But then, yeah, if you want like an actual like environment, we can cover this in some other sessions. But yeah, that's one of my main areas of expertise is actually in environment design, 3D. So building realistic and fictional environments, like specifically for VR. And we do a combination of, for realistic environments, 360 imagery and 360 video combined with some 3D overlays over it. So, and photogrammetry is another great resource if you look it up. Photogrammetry is the technique where you take many photos of a real world object and then it composites them into a realistic 3D model. And all you need is just a phone or any kind of like DSLR camera. You could do it even with an iPhone and just go around an object and take lots and lots of photos.
Does regular like newer iPhones won't do the telemetry? You have to do it with a Pro.
Okay.
Yeah. Keep that in mind.
If you're using the apps, they will give you so quality, but if you're just doing raw photos, and if you have a good camera, use it with good focus settings. Things need to be in focus, but if you get about 100 images or something, you could put them in what's it called? It was Agisoft was Metashape's good, and there's an open source one as well. But yeah, Metashape is a software where you could put in like images like that, and it'll calculate them and make them into. It'll make them into a 3D model, and this actually gives you super realistic results, much more realistic than something that an artist would create. So I've seen people use this technique to recreate, historical environments and etc. And it's used in games as well too, especially for foliage, rocks, ground clutter, stuff like that is really good for this kind of stuff. Yep. Cool. Well, yeah. Thank you again.